It was neither a destroyer nor an aircraft carrier, but a 45,000-ton warship advancing discreetly without any official announcement. Satellite images on March 15th revealed an unusual movement in the South China Sea. The USS Tripoli was that ship. Alone, at high speed and heading southwest, its course clearly indicated its destination, the Persian Gulf. And the reason was straightforward: a crisis that not even the United States Naval Force could resolve. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. The Strait of Hormuz was virtually paralyzed. The flow of oil tankers dropped sharply. Attacks against vessels increased. Insurance companies withdrew, and oil prices skyrocketed. Even after thousands of offensives and the destruction of much of Iran's naval capacity, the blockade remains. This is because the problem is no longer the Iranian Navy, but rather the constant threat of missiles. To disrupt the entire route, a single attack is enough. This is where the Tripoli comes into play. Unlike other ships, it was designed to operate with a large air capacity, functioning almost like a light aircraft carrier, focused on power projection and rapid response in high-tension scenarios. When the Navy announced this design decision, it generated intense criticism. An amphibious ship without a floodable dock seems like a ship incapable of fulfilling its primary function. But the change was intentional. The space that would have housed the dock was converted into an expanded hangar with greater aviation fuel storage capacity. The result is a ship capable of simultaneously operating up to 20 F-35B Lightning II stealth fighters, approximately half the air wing of a nuclear-powered supercarrier for a fraction of the cost. In May 2022, the Tripoli was deployed to the Western Pacific and embarked 20 F-35Bs for the first time, testing a concept that the Marine Corps calls the Lightning Carrier. This test proved that the ship could function as something the United States hadn't used in decades: a light aircraft carrier with fifth-generation stealth fighters operating independently of a carrier strike group. Currently, the Tripoli is transporting elements of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, approximately 2,500 Marines and sailors who recently completed Exercise Iron Fist 26 alongside Japanese forces between the end of February and March 9th. The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, MEU, is the only permanently deployed expeditionary unit in the Marine Corps based in Okinawa, and operates with a full combat package: an infantry battalion, an air element composed of MV-22B Osprey aircraft, AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters, UH-1Y Venom utility helicopters, CH-53E heavy transport helicopters, and the F-35Bs of Fighter Attack Squadron 121. Escorting the Tripoli are the guided missile cruiser, USS Robert Smalls, and the destroyer, USS Rafael Peralta. Together, these three ships form a self-sufficient expeditionary strike group capable of air superiority, surface warfare, amphibious assault, and sustained land operations, all without a single soldier setting foot on land until the commander decides the time is right. The question is, what CENTCOM plans to do with this force when it arrives in approximately 10 days. No one outside a small circle at MacDill Air Force Base and the Pentagon knows for sure, but the logic isn't hard to follow. The Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group has been positioned in the Arabian Sea since before the start of the war. Fighter jets operate about 800 kilometers from the strait. A round-trip mission at that distance gives a jet perhaps 15 to 20 minutes over shipping lanes before needing to return for refueling. The Tripoli-class jet does not need to operate at that distance. It is smaller, better suited to survival in confined waters than a supercarrier, and was designed to operate closer to the threat. If positioned between 160 and 240 kilometers from the strait, its F-35Bs could patrol the navigation corridors for an hour or more per mission. This triples the available coverage over the approximately 3.2-kilometer-wide transit lanes where tankers are most vulnerable. But the F-35Bs may not be the most important element aboard the Tripoli. The Marines are. The Iranian coast along the Strait of Hormuz is one of the most heavily fortified areas in the Middle East. Hormozgan Province, housing anti-ship cruise missiles, fast attack boats, unmanned surface vessels, maritime drones, and naval mines. Qeshm Island, located directly within the strait, houses an underground missile complex that military analysts describe as a fortress. Coastal batteries with C-802 and Ghadar anti-ship missiles are embedded in rocky faces near Bandar Abbas. The OGAB-44 underground airbase houses Iranian fighter jets inside a mountain. Iranian state media released images showing tunnels filled with weapons on automated rail systems, ready for rapid deployment. These are not targets that airstrikes can reliably eliminate. A bomb can collapse the entrance to a tunnel. The IRGC opens another. A bomb can destroy an exposed launcher. But launchers that remain underground, emerging only to fire and immediately returning, are nearly impossible to neutralize from the air alone. This is why the Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. military planners are reconsidering something the Pentagon has avoided since the Korean War: an amphibious ground operation on Iranian soil, specifically along the coasts of Hormozgan and Bushehr, to push the launchers out of reach of sea lanes. Whether this will happen or not is a political decision far beyond the CENTCOM level, but the means to do so are already in motion. A Marine Expeditionary Unit can insert forces by helicopter and Osprey into terrain never before prepared for ground defense, completely bypassing minefields and coastal obstacles. Vertical engagement, landing troops by air behind enemy positions, is exactly what the 31st MEU trains for. The islands within the strait, including Abu Musa and the Greater and Lesser Tums, are Iranian-controlled positions that have long been part of war plans as potential targets to neutralize anti-ship threats. Taking them would remove launch platforms positioned directly over shipping lanes. Meanwhile, the Navy is gathering the other elements needed to reopen the strait. 3 littoral combat ships, Canberra, Tulsa, and Santa Barbara, are in Bahrain transporting mine countermeasures mission packages to replace the aging Avenger-class minesweepers, recently retired. Each LCS can tow sonar and operate the AN/AQS-20A mine detection system. But mine clearance is a slow and dangerous job. Ships advance through suspected minefields at minimum speed and require constant air cover. Former Navy intelligence officers emphasize that local air superiority needs to be established before any sweeping operation begins. Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, equipped with Aegis radar, would provide defensive cover, while carrier-based fighters would suppress coastal mine-laying devices that threaten mine-clearing ships. Each of the 8 destroyers in the Arabian Sea also carries 2 MH-60 Seahawk helicopters that can be fitted with mine countermeasures modules. The entire operation is structured as a phased campaign. Continue to degrade Iran's coastal missile capabilities with airstrikes, establish air superiority over the strait to protect ships from mine countermeasures. Checking and clearing shipping lanes is the first step. Then, escorted convoys come into play, with destroyers accompanying supertankers through corridors about 3.2 kilometers wide under constant air cover. President Trump indicated that the United States would provide military escorts and war insurance with government support. France has already made available 10 additional warships and 2 frigates for a European Union escort mission, while Pakistan has launched its own operation. Still, the central problem remains. At only 34 kilometers wide, the strait is already congested, and the navigable routes are even narrower. Meanwhile, Iranian mobile launchers, hidden in tunnels in the mountains, can fire, retreat, and attack again. Each tanker hit causes the insurance cost to return to its initial level. That's why the Tripoli becomes more relevant than its size suggests. Aircraft carriers can attack Iran. Destroyers can intercept missiles, but none of them can penetrate a tunnel complex and eliminate it, nor land on a cliff to silence a launcher hidden above the waterline. The vessel that many critics have already labeled a mistake, a landing ship that supposedly can't land, may be just the piece that breaks the deadlock, not because of what it lacks, but because of what it carries on board. 2,500 Marines who don't need a beach to spring into action, and 20 stealth fighters that don't depend on a supercarrier to take off. If you enjoyed our content, be sure to leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.